Hey, what's up? This is Gary Holt, and I'm here to tell everyone to subscribe to Lamb Chopper on YouTube.
Hey, welcome back to the show, guys. Let's try and capture James Hetfield's Hardwired guitar tone off the latest album. It's a really cool tone. I'm using the 5150 today. Look, it doesn't really matter what amp you use for this for the base model. Like, as long as it's a high gain style amp, it really doesn't matter. For all these tones, just use whatever amp that you've got and we'll just try and make things work. And that's the whole point of this series, you know. Look, I'm using the 5150 6L6 version, 50 watt on the blue channel. There's nothing really crazy about the EQ settings we have here. I'm pushing the amp with a little bit more mids than I would usually do. So just talking about James's tone over the years, and look, really, where it started off with those Marshalls in the Bay Area where it was really aggressive and really mid-focused and snarly, and then they slowly just started scooping them through Master of Puppets and Injustice for All and getting really dry, scooped metal tones that were cool in their own way. But over the years, it's slowly progressed to this really dry, mid-focused thump of a tone that it sounds really tight and really focused, but it's not a huge sounding tone. If anything, it's really unforgiving the way that you've got to be so precise with your picking and And I've noticed that every little nuance will be picked up the way that you pick the strings here. And whether or not your hand is rolled back more on the bridge for that. Or you can choke things right off and get that real. And either way, it's a really aggressive sort of tone, but more of a thump than anything. It hasn't really got a lot of body or tonal aspects about it. It's almost just like an emphasis of a kick drum. And it really does, almost like when he's chugging away on that E, it almost sounds like a COD hit marker or something, you know. It's a strange sort of tone, and it took a while to realise that it is quite distinct, and it took a little bit to work out. So the trick with this tone for years, I always just thought that they pushed all the mids and they were just winding back the trebles and everything. Just a quick overview of the effects here. I'm running the Boss NST noise suppressor in the front end and effects loop like we always do. I've got the 6-band MXR EQ in the front end, as well as the Zakwild Overdrive 44. I recently got the Boss Super Overdrive SD1 just to compare it with the Zakwild, just so that it's a little bit more affordable and just to see what the differences are for you guys, but it's really negligible. So for the cost difference, I'll just say get the Boss SD1. It's pretty cheap actually. The tones are nearly identical, though the Zakwild tends to just carry a little bit more weight to it. It just suits this tone a little bit more. As for the 10-band EQ in the effects loop, all it's doing is really just beefing up that mid section a little bit. I'll turn it on and off right now just so you can see the difference. It just adds that slight little bit of body to the tone, but it's really not worth discussing too much. So really the key to this tone, and you can do this with any amp, don't just think you have to have the 5150, even though James didn't even use the 5150 on the album. I'm not exactly sure what he used. It doesn't matter. The point is we're just using the amps and the gear that we have to recreate these tones. I've got the MXR 6-band in the front right now, and you can see I'm scooping the mids in the front, and it doesn't make sense, and I would have said never do this. And by scooping the mids in the 6-band EQ in the front, you're really taking away that sort of mid-focused crashing attack that you get, that really sharp attack, and all you're really left with is a really dry, thumpy sort of tone. I'll turn it on and off now, and we'll just have a look. It's really interesting. I've never thought to do this. I've always just pushed the mids in the 6-band EQ and used it like an overdrive in that sense, but this way it's really different. It's really strange, but it's the key to this tone. And turning it off. You can hear as soon as we turn that off, the amp comes to life in a more tone that I actually prefer. It's like a traditional metal tone, more like that of Testament or a thrash tone. Like. And that's a lot more of an aggressive tone that's got a lot more mid presence, and it's a lot more sort of in your face and abrasive. So turning it back on, it's no longer got that aggressive edge, and it's more of. I've always wondered how you can lose those mid frequencies and lose that sort of harsh abrasive attack on the top of the tone, but they still keep it really dark and focused like Evil do and Havoc do with those rhythms. It's got this dryness about it, and it's just a really interesting tone to achieve, and you can do it with any amp and any EQ really. It's just taking frequencies out, and all you've got to make sure is that the EQ is the last effect from the guitar going back into the amp, and then you've just got this really dry take on the tone. So for the recording, I'm using the 2 Notes Torpedo Captor X and just running through an artificial cab and mic simulator that's just going straight into the audio interface there. So I'm not using a live mic in front of the EVH today. I'm just sitting a little bit too close, and it's a loud amp. It's hard to mic up when I'm so close, and you'll get a lot more sort of string and ambient noise, which I don't want. This does create a really nice clean signal. As for the guitar today, I'm using my Lamb guitar with the AMG 8181 pickups. It's got the ebony fingerboard and maple neck and solid mahogany body, and it really is it's got that heavy tone that's perfect for Metallica rhythms. And for those pre-recorded right-hand tracks, I actually use the Mark Morton Dominion there with the James Hetfield EMG set in it, and I'll just plug that in now and just compare it to the 81s for you. So hopefully that clears it up with a few of you what the differences are with those two pickups. I actually still prefer the EMG 81s over the headset. Even though both guitars are mahogany guitars with ebony fingerboards, etc., the Mark Morton Dominion has got the chambers inside the hollow body section, so it makes it a fairly bright guitar to play. It doesn't matter what pickups you put in it, it's always got that sort of brighter tone. And for this, it's a fair bit darker, so it's really not fair to compare too much. So all that being said, guys, thanks again for tuning in. Hopefully I've given you some ideas just to go and explore your own tones and try and create something that's a little bit different. But use those EQs in the front, use them in the effects loop, push them absolute opposite directions, and you'll be surprised with what tones you can get out of it. And just have fun and jam. So I'll see you all next week, and take care, guys. Bye.